So before I start, it's not a long review, but before I start, I just have a couple of things to preface it with. Number one is that I feel like the opportunity with reviewing and critiquing is to create identification and to put yourself in the position of the writer. And as I was reading that, I also realized that if Lucas Crawford himself were reading that poem, he would probably have laughed a lot more. It's very funny. But it's hard to do it justice when you're reading in not only somebody else's voice, but somebody like an entirely different identity. And that is actually, I think, the beauty of sort of what's at stake in the review. And that's why I really wanted to take this on. And I didn't, at this time, I didn't actually take the opportunity to talk to Lucas at all about his poem. I just wanted to try to enter the poem and understand where he was coming from. So this piece is called Poetry That Sets Broken Bones, reading Lucas Crawford's Airplane Lavatory Algebra. Algebra comes from the Arabic al-jabar, literally bone setting, restoration, the reunion of broken parts. In algebra, variables are manipulated to test and prove relationships. There's an objective validity to an equation solution. It's a practice that looks for harmony, reuniting abstraction with concrete meaning. But Lucas Crawford takes advantage of linguistic slippage. We're not meant to understand the algebra of his poem literally. To emphasize, he takes advantage of linguistic slippage to emphasize through the poem's anaphoristic if-then structure that the word variable means inconsistent, chameleonic, liable to change. His use of variables is opportunistic and unpredictable, thus situating us in a world of assigned meaning and removing the possibility of factual legitimacy, irreverently revealing the absurdities of body shaming and fat phobia using the sober vehicle of algebraic proof. Proof in airplane lavatory algebra is subjective. Just as bodies are assigned perspectival value arising from class, race, culture, and gender, rather than from quantifiable truth, Crawford's variables are assigned meaning from his point of view. He is mischievous and capricious. Mining rhymes for comedy, for instance, if X equals my ass and my ass is 100 feet behind first class. Or exploiting initials and homophones to populate his equations. For example, if V equals the volume of the airplane lavatory and C equals the circumference of my thighs, then let B be the rotational axis around which I must pivot to P. P is obviously not serving as a variable there. And speculating on the hostility in which his speaker's seatmate seems to be stewing. So just to review the stanza that begins, if my buzz-cut seatmate's hair equals A squared, it remains unfair. The space between our chairs where the armrest is owned by the acute-angled elbow he digs into me while my flabby forearm hovers rather non-aerodynamically. This anger dressed in humor is an astute way to disarm a reader and cultivate identification. This funny, self-deprecating guy is someone we want to know. But for me, the humor also makes the underlying pain in the poem all the more difficult to bear. I'm stuck in a tragi-comedic liminal space that could be hysteria. The airplane's claustrophobic microcosm isn't helping. And keeping in mind the title, I remember that we're not just in the tiny world of commercially available footroom here, we're in the toilet, a miniature within miniature. And like the shrinking volume of the spaces themselves, gate, plane, lavatory, our bodies must be disciplined to fit into these ever smaller spaces, as if we could contract and expand like living Matryoshka dolls. In fact, belief that the body should be containable in specific ways, in the profit-determined size of an airplane seat, for instance, justifies, from the point of view of the bigot, the public displays of fat phobia Crawford zooms in on in the airplane lavatory algebra. In an interview with Stephen Hugh, Crawford explains, just walking down the street as a fat person, in most places in Canada, you just get tons of public attention. From stares and comments and leers and exclusions of various kinds, just real public disrespect. Due to proportion, bodies are even more conspicuous on planes than they are down on the ground, and due to proximity, flying operates as an intensified social experience. Hot, cramped travelers are eager to place blame for their discomfort, and those whose bodies are considered undisciplined are either latently or blatantly asked to justify themselves. Crawford co-opts the language of mathematical proof to account for his speaker's body and his body's use of space. His if-then statements refer to the material conditional in mathematics where, for example, if P is true, then Q is also true. The material conditional operates as the truth function, and Crawford's tongue is firmly in his cheek as he harnesses the power of so-called truth to describe ever more elaborate visions that spring from that extraordinary word, if. And to quote him again, if my queer chest, uni-boobed, may be called Q3, then I summon Houdini's powers to extend the length of all our constraints, once, twice, thrice, and then to the power of 9, for the captain has just turned on the fasten seatbelt sign. I want to call attention to one of the many ways Crawford's subversive, articulate, playful wit is at work here. He harnessed the if to leapfrog from the defensive logic with which the poem began to the magic realism that allows the speaker to summon Houdini's powers and to fantasize a scenario in which he embodies the ideal. F equals my fear that, in the unlikely event of an emergency landing over water, the others will grab me to float. I'll kick them off with aquafit quads, let them drown with their lead-wrought lean bods. I say that he fantasizes, but this is a plane crash we're talking about. The speaker is supernatural, confident that he will escape the crash unscathed. This is triumph and revenge, a settling of accounts. The flight's catastrophe is his utopia. He not only survives, he thrives as a post-apocalyptic hero. But aeroplane lavatory algebra doesn't rest in destruction. Instead, the poem leaps yet again, culminating in a reimagined universe that embraces Crawford's speaker. While the plane has been in the air, the world has changed, and he will emerge as a fat Elvis entering my Graceland, bananas in pockets, peanut butter in hand. Gender performance plays under the surface throughout the poem, and now we're left with a wonderful image that queers Elvis's trademark sandwich, doing double duty as a joke about packing snacks, and also as a metaphor for packing. Self-deprecation has metamorphosed into gentle teasing, affection, and acceptance carried in a bit of ribbing. Crawford empowers his speaker in all his beautiful nonconformity to imagine a paradise where he's restored, reunited with his broken parts. Thank you.